What's up, guys? This is the RJB0, and I went into locals for the first time in a really long time on Saturday, and I had kind of a mixed day, because on the one hand, I went in expecting to sell a playset of tour guides because I don't like the card and I need the money, and the guy backed out of the deal, and then one of the worst ban lists in recent history was announced, and I'll have a video about that later. But on the other hand, I got my Levier, which was really helpful, and I had a lot of fun at the tournament, and I played a really derpy version of Courtney Waller's Chaos Control deck, which was actually a lot of fun. It kind of violates my rule of business casual because it's got a few expensive cards in it, like Tour Guide. But I won with it, and I had a lot of fun, so I figured I'd show you guys the deck profile. I'll start with three Tour Guides in the Sengen. I hate Tour Guide. Don't use it if you want to have fun with the game, really. But it adds consistency to this deck. It was kind of funny because I think I kind of insulted the card. I used it instead of Foolish because Foolish was really dead in this deck. I never really had a use for it, but I needed a way to put dark monsters in my graveyard really quickly because almost all of my dark monsters are bosses. So I used Tour Guide instead of Foolish, and that was just really funny. People didn't really see it coming. Dialk, I ran 3 because it's a really good recycler. I occasionally sided out the third one because sometimes I didn't need it, but it was really good. Chaos Sorcerer, it's a Chaos deck, why wouldn't I use it? 2 Kaius was really helpful against Dark World. I never found the second one to be dead. DD Warrior Lady was like the MVP of this tournament. I kid you not. This is kind of the reason why I call it my derpy version of Chaos Control, because I started every play, basically, with a DD Warrior Lady, and it would stall out my opponent, and they wouldn't want to attack it, and they'd finally find a monster that they cared little enough about that they would be okay with me banishing it with DD Warrior Lady, and I would honest my DD Warrior Lady so I wouldn't have to, and that really annoyed people. Ryo, best card in the game right now, basically. Don't see why I wouldn't run 2 of it. 2 Cyber Dragon, I occasionally sided them out, but they were really helpful as bottomless bait, and they would run over Inzectors really nicely. 1 Veiler, I would use more Veilers if I had them, but 1 is what I've got. That's the one big change I would make to this deck if I could. 1 Battle Fader, I only had 1, I only needed 1. It was basically Caius material for me, and it would occasionally stop OTKs, but that was pretty much it. BLS, it's a Chaos deck. Trigodia was really nice. It was another OTK stopper, and I occasionally stole monsters with it and occasionally beat people over the head with it. And that was fun. Cores, it's Cores. Don't know why you wouldn't use it. Kaiku was really good, especially against Dark Worlds, because they would send their Graphis to the graveyard, and then I'd banish them with Kaiku basically for game. It was pretty funny. Honest, basically the above reasons. I've got a lot of small light monsters, so running over things with Honest is really nice. Dark Armed, I drew into it dead once, but other than that it was still pretty useful. Monster Reborn and Dark Hole are staples. 2 Duality, I had a third one that I sided in occasionally. It just adds consistency. 2 MST and Heavy, it's pretty basic lineup as far as that. I probably should have added in a third MST because back row was a problem for me against Inzectors, but I still won the first round 4-1, so that was okay. Allure, it's Chaos, why wouldn't I use it? Book of Moon is basically my second Veiler. Avarice was actually not as helpful as I expected it to be because I really like my graveyard. Graveyard is really helpful in this deck, and sending 5 monsters from your graveyard back to your deck is actually a pretty steep price to pay for 2 cards, but occasionally it did turn out to be useful. Torrential Dust Mirror Force, 2 warnings, basically my defensive plays. I think when this format comes out, it'll probably actually be helpful to be taking out a Dust Shoe for a Torrential. Just saying. Mirror Force, whatever. I don't run Judgment just because I never felt like I would use it, and life points can be a problem for this deck. My extra deck, I really didn't use anything except for the Ixies. Chimera Tech, I was kind of an unnecessary precaution since I never faced any machine monsters. I ran 2 of a lot of the Synchros, Trishul and Mistworm, Scrap, and Stardust. Black Rose I actually used. Brionic I actually won a couple games with. And Gaia Knight was just extra gate bait. Catastor, I have a bunch of level 4s and a level 1 tuner. Figured I would use it. Kind of the same reason I have Utopia. I have a bunch of level 4s and I have a Tragodia. Why wouldn't I use it? Leviathan and Levier. I don't run Zen mains because I like this deck because it's fun, and Zen mains isn't fun. It's also not fast enough, and it's really a good excuse for your opponent to wait you out for a while and then hit and like bounce it or banish it at the worst possible time. So, Leviathan, really, it was a foolish with a Herpter beater. That's pretty much what Leviathan was for me. And I used it more often than Levier just because it, like I said, I use my Ixies and my tour guide to get monsters in the graveyard. Leviathan, I just ended a couple games with Leviathan. It was basically for winning games, like I said. So that's the deck profile. My side deck isn't especially interesting. I would have changed a lot in my side deck. But I cited a third DD Warrior Lady and a second Kaiku and a third Duality and DD Crow. So that was pretty much that deck profile. I'll be bringing in a bunch more videos this week, hopefully. Until then, this is the RJB0 signing out.